come to that, I must tell you that I sincerely miss Annaji's presence here. Very sorry to hear that he was not well at all. And we wish him speedy recovery. In fact, he's like the host, and we should have had him here. He's an inspiration to all of us. And without him, it's very difficult for any meeting to go on. But unfortunately, it was a last-minute affair, so we couldn't do anything about it. In fact, I was going to tell him when he came here that it was good that he was back on the public stage, because it was a great boost for all of us who believe in something like the institution of a Lokpal, which he so cherished. And we have, of course, all the implements there. The Act is there, everything is there. But we don't have a Lokpal. And the excuse given by the Attorney General was that we can't find the leader of the opposition is just not there because there's not sufficient number of votes to have a leader of the opposition. Therefore, we can't have a Lokpal. I mean, a peculiar logic, but that sort of logic is what prevails. And I wish we had Annaji here to have given some piece of his mind to the Attorney General, who mentioned this in the Supreme Court just a week ago or 2 weeks ago, saying, sorry, we can't have a Lokpal because we can't have a leader of the opposition, we can't have a leader of the opposition, so we can't have a Lokpal. I mean, this is a peculiar sort of logic because nobody wants a Lokpal. It's just like saying nobody wants electoral reforms. So this is all very well that we want electoral reform, but then we have to instill in the people, and that's why Annaji was a very important element today, in the people a requirement for electoral reforms. I still remember that when we appeared in that 8.4, Section 8.4, which was struck down by the Supreme Court and not accepted by all the political parties, there was a bill introduced, the bill couldn't be passed. So an ordinance came, and the ordinance also was remarkably put an end to by the leader or the deputy leader of one of the political parties tearing it in front of the television camera. And that put an end, at least that's one way to get rid of an ordinance, which was not accepted. But that's no democratic way to do it. But that's the way it was. And therefore, I'm one of the very few, maybe in a minority of one, to applaud Mr. Rahul Gandhi for having torn it up. Now, the important thing is we must, of course, have electoral reform. Nobody says we don't have. There are so many electoral reforms. My favorite, and that's what I wish to propagate for your consideration, is that we must have a reform, namely that a person who wants to get elected or is already elected loses his seat, cannot have his seat if, and only if, a charge is framed by a criminal court in respect of a criminal offense. Very often we misunderstand this charge framed and charge sheet. Charge sheet is not the charge frame. The charge sheet only gives a prima facie view that you may have committed an offense. But the formulation of a charge is something far more important. The evidence is laid, there is special provision made, and once a charge is framed, then, and this is what all political parties are resisting today, charge is framed, then I'm afraid I am all for a form of reform that one cannot stand for election to Parliament or a legislative assembly, because that is where we will have the criminalization of politics. We either have the criminalization of politics or the politicization of criminals. Whichever way you look at it, it's the same thing. It's two sides of the same coin. And therefore, my suggestion today is that that this simple reform, at least let us start off with a reform because it helps in the fight against corruption, something that Annaji is close to his heart. And if we have that, I think that we will have gone a long way. Thank you, Chief Election Commissioner.